Ceasefire talks intensify, yet fighting threatens to spread in the Middle East. What are the chances for any sort of solutions, either short-term or long-term? We want to bring in our military analyst, retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. Good to see you, General. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Rick Francona. Always a pleasure, Colonel. Glad to have you both. I'll start with you, General. From the limited information that we're getting now, our Elise Labott telling us from Aspen about the talk of a humanitarian ceasefire being in the works, working with Qatar and Turkey to convince Hamas to sign on to this one-week ceasefire, to give them time to get medical supplies into Gaza, to get some of the dead and injured out. How hopeful are you of this, that it is something that could begin a longer-term process?
Well, Michaela, I'll tell you from a soldier's perspective, first of all, Secretary Kerry has been working tirelessly to get this done, and thank God for that. The challenge is going to be that now both sides are coming to the table. The Israeli side that has already been offered or has offered ceasefires in the past is about halfway through with their operation. And they know they have to continue to secure the area so there's no more attacks on Israel. As we heard from Peter Lehrer last night, the Israeli spokesperson, they're about 50% done. There's still about 5,000 rockets and a whole lot more tunnels. On the other side, on Hamas's side, they have been offered this in the past, and yet they continue, and they have the most to gain from this, yet they continue to fire missiles. So I think just the fact that we're getting both sides to the table, that there might be some humanitarian operations here and that we can stop the violence for a while and maybe get some talking, that's always good from a soldier's perspective, that peace breaks out.
Colonel Francona, I know you've had a chance to look at this as well, and we talked about last time around a ceasefire brokered by Egypt was on the table. Hamas felt that they weren't involved. They called it a one-sided agreement. They didn't feel enough was being done. Is there a concern that they're going to feel the same way this time?
Yeah, I think so, but I think the General brings a good point. It's always good if people are going to stop shooting and start talking, and I think the Secretary General and Secretary Kerry have structured this in a good way. Let's just stop shooting, and then we can sit down and talk about where we're going, rather than putting all these preconditions. If Hamas tells the Israelis, we'll agree to a ceasefire if you agree to open up the West Bank, and if the Israelis say, but you have to give up, disarm Hamas, those are non-starters. So if you can say, let's do a humanitarian break, get everybody to the table, then you've got a chance to make some headway. But as long as they're killing each other, you can't talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk from a soldier's perspective again, General. I think those of us sitting at home and sitting away from this that don't have the military expertise, don't have the intelligence gathering capability and insight that the two of you have, will say, gosh, do they have to keep putting innocent lives at risk? You talk about the operation on the Israeli side not being completed yet, and I think there'll be people that'll say that means we'll see another UN school/shelter in the line of fire?
Well, you certainly are going to continue to see that, because from what we've seen of Hamas's approach is they have not only done that, but they have asked Palestinians to put themselves in harm's way to, as they use the term telegenetically, show the damage that's being done in Gaza. So this is, I would say, Michaela, we have to be very concerned, even though the American people are very concerned about the number of casualties, and they see a disproportionate number of casualties on one side versus the other. Unequal does not equal immoral. I think if Hamas was given the opportunity, they would certainly kill more Israelis, and they have said they want to do that. Israeli citizens, not Israeli soldiers. Having been under fire in that region on a normal Tuesday, just a visit, when I was visiting with my counterpart, having seen some of the tunnels that Hamas is digging under Gaza, they are doing these things for criminal and terrorist actions, and I think that Israel is right to try and safeguard their country, but at the same time, there certainly are unequal casualties, and that affects Americans as it does all over the world, people thinking that unequal might not be the right approach.
Quick final thought, Rick.
And as long as they're fighting in Gaza, we're going to see that continue, because we're fighting on Palestinian turf. They're going to take the most casualties. It's densely populated, and they're not taking the protective measures they need to protect their people. So this, as the General said, this is going to continue.
This is going to continue. A big thank you to retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling and retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Rick Francona. Gentlemen, Always a delight. Thanks so much. Even though it's the heaviest topic of all, we appreciate your insight.